We had some things go down over the weekend that we got to talk about. LeBron James versus Luka Doncic, the Warriors tanking. Yeah, some stuff happened over the weekend. I also got to give you guys my thoughts on the Los Angeles Lakers win over the San Antonio Spurs. I also have some updated thoughts on the Los Angeles Clippers. We got to talk about that plus several other games today. So with that being said, yo, what is up, guys? It's me, Zachary, back here bringing you guys some more NBA discussions. Hope you're all having a fantastic day from whichever part of the world you might be watching from. But with that being said, go ahead and make sure that you smack that like button, as it does help the channel grow, as well as make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with post notifications on so you don't miss out on more content like this every Monday through Friday. That is right, I'm bringing you basketball discussions 5 days a week. So make sure that you're subbed to the channel so you don't miss out on that. But with all of that being said, let's just get into everything that we gotta talk about today. Let's do this, let go! Ladies and gentlemen, LeBron James showed us that he is still LeBron James. LeBron James showed us that he can still get up for games. LeBron James showed us that even though he's 35 years old, he can still put up a performance like he was 28. LeBron James versus Luka Doncic. The Dallas Mavericks versus the Los Angeles Lakers. A historic showdown in which this was the first time opposing players on both teams had 30-point triple-doubles. LeBron, 39 points, 16 rebounds, and 12 assists. Doncic, 31 points, 15 assists, 13 rebounds. And of course, it was the Lakers who came away with the overtime 119-110 win. Like I said, LeBron James just showed us that he can still go out there and be LeBron James. And that's a huge thing, because that's a message to the rest of the league. Like, he's been being called out for coasting so far this season, for being very passive, letting Anthony Davis dictate the offense. Of course, why would you not? You're 35 years old. Right? You're 35 years old, you have this young phenom on your team. Of course, you're going to let him be the centerpiece of the offense. And LeBron James, coming into the season, has been looking to do exactly that. He gets the rest of the team going, gets Davis going, and then in the second half, third, fourth quarter, if his team needs it, he'll step in and make his mark. That's been LeBron James so far this year, but this game against the Dallas Mavericks was LeBron James saying, I can still go out here and have one of these vintage performances if I want to, if I need to. I still got this in the bag. I'm just saving it for when it actually matters. And while I'm talking about LeBron James, can I bring up the fact that this man is shooting over 80% from the free throw line this year? LeBron James shooting over 80% from the free throw line this year. Do you guys know why that's so big? It's because a couple of years ago, that's what LeBron James said that the last thing he really wanted to accomplish in the NBA was. It wasn't to win Defensive Player of the Year or anything like that. No, it was merely to be able to say that he shot at least 80% from the free throw line. He's doing that right now. And while you guys see LeBron James posting on his Instagram about Taco Tuesday and all this other stuff that he does on his Instagram and social media, what you're not seeing is all of the work that's going in behind the scenes. You might see some of it when he's in the weight room, but you're not seeing him practice free throws. This is LeBron James, a guy who has been the ruler of the NBA for the greater part of the past decade. And he's still in the gym practicing free throws, still trying to get better. What message that send to not just me and you, but just about every other player in the NBA as well? If you got someone as accomplished as LeBron, someone who has reached a plateau of greatness such as LeBron, still working, striving to get better at his craft, even if it's just something as remedial as shooting a free throw, what does that tell you that we need to be doing every day? Every day we gotta be waking up trying to get better. That's what LeBron does. That's what a handful of the greatest players in the league do. So if you want greatness in any area of your life, you know exactly what you have to do now. Every day, wake up, try to get better. Speaking of greatness, something else that I want to talk about that happened over the weekend was the Detroit Pistons beating the Brooklyn Nets. Now, typically, if this was just any Detroit versus Brooklyn Nets game, unless something crazy happened, I wouldn't really talk about it. Even though as a Pistons fan, I feel like if I'm not on here talking about my Pistons, then no one's going to talk about my Pistons. They're not going to get any shine. So when something happens that impresses me to the fullest extent like this game did, I'm going to be talking about it. Okay, in this game, the Detroit Pistons were without their 3 point guards. They didn't have Derrick Rose, they didn't have Reggie Jackson, and they didn't even have Tim Frazier. The Detroit Pistons didn't have a point guard. Bruce Brown, the second-year defensive stud, had to start for the Pistons at point guard. And the Pistons eventually fell down 14 to the Brooklyn Nets in this game. Kyrie Irving logging a triple-double. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Without any of their point guards, the Pistons came back and beat the Brooklyn Nets. Bruce Brown, the second-year defensive stud, who in my mind should be the starting point guard for this team until further notice, even when Tim Frazier does return. 22 points, 7 assists, did not turn the ball over. Luke Kennard continuing to play great, 24 points. And Andre Drummond, this is the real thing I want to talk about here. Andre Drummond, 25 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks, 3 steals, and even hit 5 of his 6 free throws. And yet, no one's talking about it. Absolutely no one is talking about Andre Drummond. See, if any other big man in the league was putting up the numbers that Andre Drummond was putting up right now, media would be all over it. If Nikola Jokic was doing what Andre Drummond was doing, if Anthony Davis was doing what Andre Drummond was doing, if Joel Embiid, I go down the list. Any star big man, if they're doing what Andre Drummond is doing, they're getting mentioned. Absolutely no one has said anything about Andre Drummond so far this season. And this is a guy averaging over 22 points, just under 19 rebounds, 1.7 steals, and 2.6 blocks per game. Trying to lead these Pistons as Blake Griffin is still on his way back from an injury. This dude last year tied for second place in NBA history in the last 35 years for the most 2020 games. He had 11 of them last year. Number 1 on the list is Kevin Willis, who had 12. Andre Drummond so far this year, I believe, already has 3 of them. 3, maybe even 4. And this guy isn't getting any love. It's okay. As a Pistons fan, I have a duty to represent my team when something good's going down, and that's what I'm going to do. So right now, I want to take this time to give a massive shout out to Andre Drummond. I recognize you. I see what you're doing. Keep it up. The last thing we got to talk about that happened over the weekend was the Golden State Warriors officially entering tank mode. The most dominant team over the past 5 years is entering tank mode. And if you're a Warriors fan, if I'm a Warriors fan right now, I've never been so happy. I have never been so happy because at the start of the season, when Steph Curry was playing before he broke his hand, we all saw it. The Golden State Warriors might have been a playoff team. I wouldn't bet on the Warriors not have making the playoffs, but they were not a championship contender. They're not going to have Klay Thompson this year. The Warriors were not going to be a championship contender. It wasn't going to happen. So, with that being the case, if the Warriors continue to play on this season, they might have won 45-ish games, something like that. Made the 7th, 8th, 6th seed in the Western Conference, lost in the first round. Didn't get a really good draft pick. They get Klay Thompson back next year, and that's about it. Now, here's what's going to happen since Steph Curry isn't going to be playing for the Golden State Warriors with this broken hand. They're going to lose a bunch of games. They're going to lose a bunch of games, especially if they continue to sit Draymond Green and sit D'Angelo Russell like they did against the San Antonio Spurs. The Warriors are tanking. And if I can be honest, this to me sounds very reminiscent of the San Antonio Spurs pre-Tim Duncan. The San Antonio Spurs from the 96-97 season. The San Antonio Spurs when David Robinson missed the entire season with a broken foot. The San Antonio Spurs, who went from 59-23 to 20-62 the following year, were bad enough to get a draft pick and get Tim Duncan and then be the San Antonio Spurs that we have seen for the past 20 plus years. That could very well be what happens to the Golden State Warriors, where they lose enough games, end up in the lottery, maybe even a bottom 5 team depending on how many games Draymond and D'Lo sit. Get a top 5 draft pick and come back next year healthy with that draft pick, with D'Lo, with Draymond, with Steph, and with Clay. And set them up for the future with that draft pick and with a nice young player like D'Angelo Russell as well. That could very well be the Warriors' future, and we saw it, the first steps to it, take place against the San Antonio Spurs when the Warriors officially entered tank mode. That's going to do it for everything that happened over the weekend, though. Now let's take a look at everything that happened yesterday. The first thing we got to talk about is the Los Angeles Lakers getting the win over the San Antonio Spurs. 103-96, the final score in this one. The Los Angeles Lakers are now 5-1 on the year. Their only loss coming to the Los Angeles Clippers in that first game of the season. And what's even more impressive about the Lakers so far is that they're winning games with their defense. Do you guys know that only one team has managed to score over 100 points against the Lakers so far? And that team was the Dallas Mavericks in that overtime game. We're talking about the Lakers defense coming out here and stifling people. And then when you think about why, well, it's pretty easy to see why. Not only with the offseason additions that they made, but also with the coaching change. The head coach of the Lakers now is Frank Vogel. And that name should sound very familiar to anyone who's been following LeBron James or the NBA in the past decade, as Frank Vogel was the guy who orchestrated the Indiana Pacers defense back in 2013 and 2014 when the Pacers were within seconds of dethroning LeBron James and the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference. That's the guy who's running the defensive show for LA right now. And then you give him defensive tools like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, pretty solid defender coming off the bench. Danny Green, good defender. Avery Bradley, good defender. Anthony Davis, good defender. Dwight Howard, good defender. You got a lot of great defenders on this Los Angeles Lakers team now, something that they didn't necessarily have in previous years, and they definitely didn't have a coach with as great of a defensive mind as Frank Vogel. Now you guys have to forgive what happened to Frank Vogel after he left the Indiana Pacers, after they replaced him, and he had to go to the Orlando Magic. I can't fault Frank Vogel for what happened with the Orlando Magic. The dude did not look good with the Orlando Magic. He did not even look like he wanted to be there. He looked depressed. That's what Frank Vogel looked like in Orlando. He looked depressed. And how could you not be depressed when you go from coaching a team that was within seconds of throning LeBron James in the East to coaching the Orlando Magic? I have some updated thoughts on the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, before, you guys know my thoughts were pretty extreme about the Los Angeles Clippers. I said that they were my favorites to win the championship even without Paul George. And while I still do think that the Los Angeles Clippers would be championship contenders with just Kawhi if they didn't have PG, I'm now convinced that this team absolutely needs Paul George. See, the Clippers got the win 105-94 over the Utah Jazz yesterday. This was the second meeting between these teams, as the Jazz took the first meeting a couple of days ago when Kawhi Leonard was out due to rest. And here's exactly why I say that the Clippers need Paul George. It's because the rest of the starting lineup for the Los Angeles Clippers, minus Kawhi Leonard, is not an offensive threat by themselves. If you're an opposing defense opening up the game against the Los Angeles Clippers, there's really only one offensive threat that you need to pay attention to right now, and that is Kawhi Leonard. The rest of the guys, they're only going to get buckets by Kawhi Leonard setting them up for the outside shot or a shot in the lane or just something like that. I mean, we're talking about Zubac, Shamet, Beverly, and Patterson. None of those guys are a significant offensive threat. And last night, the rest of the starting lineup minus Kawhi managed to score just 25 points. 25 points. Paul George alone, when he comes back, will be getting you at least 25 points. That's why the that's why the Los Angeles Clippers need Paul George. I don't even think it should be a debate. I'm sorry for saying otherwise in the first place. I'm sorry, that was my bad. I got a little emotional and carried away and excited to see some great basketball being played. Real quick though, now for all of the other games from last night. The first one is the Miami Heat desolating, disintegrating, whatever you want to call it. They destroyed the Houston Rockets, 129 to 100. I was watching this game and the final score doesn't even do it justice how bad this game was for the Houston Rockets. The Heat led by 40 points at some time. I mean, realistically, the only good takeaway from this game, if you are a Rockets fan, is that your team never went down by 50. The Indiana Pacers, after starting off the season 0-3, now have their third win in a row. This one coming via a 108 to 95 win over the Chicago Bulls. Looks like they're finally starting to turn around, and I cannot wait to see what this team looks like once Victor Oladipo returns. TJ Warren, 26 points, and Malcolm Brogdon continuing to play extremely well with 22 points and 7 assists. Sacramento Kings, after starting off their season 0-5, now got their second win in a row. This time it came versus the lowly New York Knicks, 113 to 92. De'Aaron Fox leading the way with 24 points and 6 assists. Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks destroyed the Cleveland Cavaliers. Luka Doncic with a second straight triple-double, 29 points, 15 assists, and 14 rebounds. He now has the most 25-point triple-doubles in Dallas Mavericks history, passing the all-time great Jason Kidd. Not only is Luka Doncic the leader for most 25-point triple-doubles in Mavericks history though, he's also tied Oscar Robertson as the only player to have back-to-back 25-point, 10 rebound, and 15 assist games. This kid is this good at just 20 years old. Imagine Luka Doncic in 6, 7, or 8 years. You probably can't even imagine it, can you? You can't. He's gonna be that good. And that though is going to lead us to the player of the day, the portion of the video where you guys have the option to vote for who you think was the best player in the league last night by clicking the little eye icon in the top right hand corner of the video. But with that being said, here are today's nominees. You have Luka Doncic and his 29 points, 15 assists, and 14 rebounds. LeBron James and his 21 points, 13 assists, and 11 rebounds. Kawhi Leonard and his 30 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 steals. Malcolm Brogdon and his 22 points and 7 assists, or Jimmy Butler and his 18 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, and 4 steals. Like I said, you guys can vote for who you think was the best player in the league last night by clicking the little eye icon at the top right hand corner of the video. That being said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Once again though, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more videos like this every Monday through Friday. You guys already know that you are the real MEPs though, and until tomorrow, keep getting the buckets, Team SDC, and I'm out of here. Peace!